The text message appeared on my phone at 10:23 p.m. on a Wednesday evening in early December. Dad, we need to have a serious conversation about your future. It's time to make some changes. I stared at those words for a long moment. My name is Thomas Harrison, and I'm 67 years old. That message from my daughter Emily was the beginning of something I'd been quietly dreading for months. I sat in my study in my waterfront home in Seattle, rain pattering against the windows, the city lights reflecting off Puget Sound. 42 years as a financial advisor had taught me to read between the lines of what people said and what they actually meant. That message wasn't about my future. It was about my assets. My wife Catherine died 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer took her in 6 brutal months. We'd been married for 41 years. We raised 2 children, built a comfortable life, planned for retirement together. This house on the water had been our dream for decades. We bought it 15 years ago when the market was different. Now it was worth over $2 million, and every real estate agent in Seattle had my number. Since Catherine passed, I'd stayed active, deliberately. I swam at the athletic club 4 mornings a week. I volunteered as a financial literacy instructor at the community college. I still consulted for my old firm on complex estate planning cases. I'd seen too many of my peers retire and fade away within a year. That wasn't going to be me. I texted Emily back. What kind of changes? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Let's talk at Christmas. Brett and I are coming up to Seattle. We'll stay through New Year's. Something cold settled in my stomach. Not your house or home, just Seattle. Like I was a location, not her father. I'd been noticing things for the past 6 months. Emily asking pointed questions about my investment portfolio. Brett mentioning articles he'd read about senior living communities. My daughter commenting on how the house was too big for one person, too much maintenance, too many stairs. Each observation delivered with concern that felt rehearsed. Emily was 39 now, married to Brett for 7 years. They lived in Portland, both working in tech, or at least that's what I thought until I did some digging. 3 months ago, I'd noticed Emily had unfriended several mutual connections on social media. Brett had deleted his LinkedIn profile. When I casually asked about work during our last phone call, Emily had been vague and changed the subject quickly. 2 weeks before Christmas, I did something I didn't tell anyone about. I called my attorney, Richard Nakamura. We'd worked together for years when I was practicing. He was sharp, ethical, and he didn't sugarcoat reality. Thomas, if you're worried about your daughter's intentions with your estate, we need to establish protections now, Richard said during our meeting in his downtown Seattle office. Has Emily asked you to sign anything? Any powers of attorney? Any financial documents? Not yet, but I can feel it coming. Richard leaned back in his chair. Here's what concerns me. You said she's been asking about your assets, suggesting lifestyle changes, questioning your ability to manage the house. That's a pattern I've seen before in elder financial abuse cases. The words elder financial abuse hit me like a punch. She's my daughter. I know. And I hope I'm wrong. But hope isn't a strategy. He pulled out a legal pad. Do you have any security cameras in your home? No. I've thought about it, but it always felt like overkill. Get some. Ones that record audio and video to the cloud. If there's any confrontation, any pressure tactics, any threats, we need documentation. And Thomas, if things escalate, if anyone becomes physically aggressive or threatening, you need evidence. Medical records, police reports, video footage, everything. I left his office feeling sick. But I also felt something else. Clarity. I knew my daughter, and I knew the signs were there. I just needed to be prepared. I spent the next week installing a security system. Not obvious cameras that would put people on guard, but small ones. One in the living room bookshelf disguised as a book spine, one in the kitchen, one in my study, all connected to cloud storage, all recording continuously. I tested them multiple times, crystal clear video and audio. I also did something else. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know what was really going on with Emily and Brett. The report came back 3 days before Christmas, and it explained everything. Brett had a gambling problem. He'd lost $340,000 over the past 2 years. Online poker, sports betting, trips to Las Vegas. They'd taken out a second mortgage on their Portland condo. They'd maxed out 6 credit cards. They were drowning. Emily and Brett arrived on December 23rd in their Tesla. I heard it pull into the driveway, the expensive purr of the electric motor. Emily emerged wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than I spent on clothing in a year. Brett followed, looking tired and strained. "Dad!" Emily hugged me, but it felt mechanical. "The house looks great. You've been keeping up with everything?" "I have someone help with the yard work and the heavy maintenance. I'm not decrepit, sweetheart." Brett laughed, but it sounded forced. "Of course not, Tom. You look fantastic, but this place is a lot of house for one person. All these rooms, the waterfront upkeep, the property taxes must be brutal." We went inside. I'd prepared guest rooms for them, bought groceries, tried to make everything welcoming. But I kept thinking about that investigator's report. $340,000 in gambling debt. Creditors calling. Foreclosure proceedings starting on their condo. Christmas Eve passed tensely. We made dinner together, exchanged small talk, avoided anything substantial. But I could feel it building, the real conversation waiting to happen. It came on Christmas morning. We'd opened presents, drunk coffee, and then Emily said, "Dad, we need to talk about your living situation." There it was. "My living situation is fine," I said carefully. "Just hear us out." Brett pulled out an iPad. Actual presentation slides. They'd prepared a pitch. "We've been researching senior living communities. There are some incredible places. Independent living with support services. You'd have your own apartment, activities, medical care on site, social opportunities." I set down my coffee mug. "I don't need medical care. I'm healthy." "You are now," Emily said. "But Dad, you're 67. Things change. What if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency? You're alone here. It's not safe. There are neighbors. I have friends. I'm 10 minutes from 3 hospitals." Brett swiped to the next slide. "Let's talk numbers. This house is worth approximately $2. $3 million based on recent comparable sales. Your investment portfolio, based on what you've mentioned, is around $900,000. That's over $3 million in assets." I felt my jaw tighten. "How do you know about my investment portfolio?" Emily had the grace to look embarrassed. "Dad, you mentioned it during our calls. We've been paying attention. I've never told you specific numbers." "We estimated," Brett said smoothly. "The point is, you're sitting on substantial assets that aren't working for you. If we sell the house, move you into a quality senior living facility, the entry fee would be around $300,000. Your monthly costs would run about $5,000. The remaining $2 million could be invested to generate income to cover those costs and leave a substantial estate. Or, I said quietly, I could continue living in my home that's paid off, managing my own money and living my life." Emily reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "Dad, we're worried about you. Last month you forgot about our video call. You called me Catherine twice during our conversation. These are warning signs." I apologized for missing the call. I had a client presentation, and I called you Catherine once because I was looking at a photo of your mother when I was talking to you. It was a slip of the tongue. Everyone mixes up names. "At your age, it's different," Brett said. "These can be early signs of cognitive decline." Something hot flared in my chest. "My cognitive function is fine. I manage complex financial portfolios for clients. I teach graduate-level finance courses. I've been doing the Sunday New York Times crossword in under 30 minutes every week." "Dad, please don't get defensive," Emily said. "We're trying to help you. We love you." "Help me out of my house, you mean?" Brett's expression hardened. "Tom, we're trying to have an adult conversation here. You need to sell this house. You're going to sign papers giving us power of attorney so we can handle the sale and manage your transition into senior living. We've already contacted a realtor. There's a developer very interested in this waterfront lot." The words hung in the air. Already contacted a realtor. This wasn't a suggestion. This was a plan they'd made without me. "No," I said firmly. "This is my home. Catherine and I saved for 20 years to buy this place. I'm not selling it." and I'm certainly not signing over power of attorney to anyone. Emily's face changed. The concerned daughter mask slipped, revealing something harder underneath. Dad, you're not thinking clearly. That's exactly why you need someone making decisions for you. My thinking is perfectly clear. What's clear is that you two have made plans for my life without consulting me. Brett stood up. You're being incredibly selfish. Do you know what it's like for us worrying about you up here alone, having to drive 3 hours every time we need to check on something? I don't recall asking you to check on me. This is exactly what we're talking about. Emily stood too. You're isolated. You're becoming difficult. You're showing signs of paranoia. These are classic symptoms of age-related cognitive issues. I stood slowly, keeping my voice calm. I am not having cognitive issues. I am a financially secure retired professional who swims 4 days a week, consults for Fortune 500 companies, and manages a 7-figure investment portfolio. What I am is inconvenient to whatever plan you two have put together. Plan? Emily's voice rose. You think we have a plan? We're trying to help you before you make a mistake that hurts yourself. Like what? Living independently in my own home? Brett slammed his hand on the table. You have a 4-bedroom waterfront house worth over $2 million. That's insane for one person. Emily and I are in a 2-bedroom condo with negative equity, drowning in debt, and you're sitting here on a fortune doing nothing with it. There it was. The truth. Finally naked between us. So this is about your debt, I said quietly. Emily's face flushed. This is about being practical. You're our family. You should want to help us. We're struggling, and you have more than you need. I paid for your entire college education, I said, my voice tight. I gave you $40,000 for your wedding. I co-signed your first car loan. I've helped you every time you've asked. Don't talk to me about family responsibility. That was years ago, Brett snapped. What have you done for us lately? The entitlement in that question took my breath away. I think you both need to leave now. We're not leaving until you sign the papers, Emily said, pulling documents from her bag. We've had these prepared by our attorney. Power of attorney for healthcare and finances. It's for your own good. I'm not signing anything. Get out of my house. Brett moved around the table toward me. Tom, stop being stubborn. This is happening whether you cooperate or not. We can go through the courts. We'll get medical evaluations showing you're not capable of managing your affairs. On what grounds? That I won't give you my money? On the grounds that you're an elderly man living alone, showing signs of decline, refusing reasonable assistance from family, Emily said. We've already consulted with Dr. Morrison. He's willing to conduct an assessment. You've already talked to a doctor about having me declared incompetent? Brett grabbed my arm. Just sign the damn papers and we can all move on with our lives. I tried to pull away. Let go of me. Not until you sign. His grip tightened. Brett, you're hurting me. Let go. Sign them. I yanked my arm back hard. Brett's other hand shot out and shoved me. I'm 67 years old, but I stay fit. I should have kept my balance, but my foot caught the edge of the area rug, and I went backward. The world tilted. My shoulder hit the corner of the stone fireplace surround. Pain exploded through my upper body. I heard something crack, felt warmth spreading down my arm. Blood. I heard Emily gasp. Heard Brett say, "Oh God, oh God." I didn't mean, but I didn't move. I lay there on my hardwood floor, my shoulders screaming in pain, blood soaking through my shirt. And through the pain, I thought very clearly, this is it. This is the evidence I need. Dad! Dad! Emily's voice panicked now. I opened my eyes. The ceiling swam. My shoulder felt like it was on fire. I could see blood on the floor beside me. We need to call 911, Emily said, her voice high and frantic. No, wait, Brett started. He's bleeding. He might have broken something. I turned my head slightly. Pain shot through my shoulder and neck. The bookshelf, I said quietly. The camera in the bookshelf has been recording everything, every threat you made, every demand. Brett pushing me. The silence was absolute. Emily's face went white. What camera? The leather-bound books on the third shelf. The green one. It's a camera, audio and video, cloud storage. Everything you said about the medical evaluation, about forcing me into senior living, about the house sale. All recorded. "Oh my God," Emily whispered. "Oh my God, Brett. Dad, I didn't mean to hurt you," Brett said, his voice shaking. "It was an accident. You pulled away, and I didn't mean for you to fall." I pulled my phone from my pocket with my good hand. Blood smeared the screen. My hands shook as I opened my text messages and found Richard Nakamura's number. Phase 1 complete. Brett pushed me. Shoulder injury, bleeding, evidence recorded. Calling 911 now. His response came within seconds. "Do not let them drive you anywhere. Call 911 immediately. I'm on my way." I pressed the emergency call button. "What are you doing?" Brett asked, his voice rising in panic. "Calling an ambulance." "Dad, please. We can talk about this," Emily pleaded. "It was an accident. We can work this out as a family." The 911 operator's voice came through. 911. "What's your emergency?" "This is Thomas Harrison at 847 Shoreline Drive in Seattle. I've been injured. I need an ambulance. My son-in-law pushed me during an argument, and I hit the stone fireplace. I'm bleeding, and I think my shoulder may be broken. Sir, are you in immediate danger? Is the person who hurt you still there?" "Yes, both my daughter and son-in-law are still in the house. Officers are being dispatched along with medical services. Can you get to a safe location? I'll go outside to wait for them." I stood up slowly, carefully. The room spun. My left arm hung at a wrong angle. Blood had soaked through my shirt and was dripping onto the floor. I could see bone through the torn fabric. "Dad, please don't do this." Emily was crying now. "We're family. We can work this out." I looked at her, really looked at her. When had my daughter become this person? You threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent. You admitted you've already talked to a doctor and a realtor about selling my home without my consent. You and your husband came here with a plan to take control of my assets. And when I refused, Brett physically assaulted me. That's not family. That's elder abuse. I walked past them to the front door. Each step sent waves of pain through my shoulder. "Thomas, we didn't mean for any of this to happen," Brett called after me. "We were just trying to have a conversation." I opened the door. Cold December air hit my face. "No, you were trying to steal my life. There's a difference." I walked down my front steps carefully, cradling my left arm. I sat down on the bottom step to wait. Through the window, I could see Emily and Brett inside, arguing frantically. Brett was on his phone, probably calling a lawyer. Too late for that. The ambulance arrived in 12 minutes. 2 paramedics rushed up with a gurney and equipment. "Sir, I'm Marcus. Can you tell me what happened?" My son-in-law pushed me during an argument. I fell and hit the corner of the stone fireplace. I think my shoulder is dislocated or broken. Is the person who pushed you still inside? Yes, him and my daughter. Marcus spoke into his radio. I heard him request police presence. They stabilized my arm, took my vitals, loaded me onto the gurney. As they wheeled me to the ambulance, I saw Emily and Brett standing in the doorway, looking small and scared. Good. The ride to Harborview Medical Center took 18 minutes through Christmas morning traffic. The paramedics kept me talking, checking for signs of shock or head injury. I told them my name, the date, the president, my address. I was alert, oriented, lucid despite the searing pain. At the emergency room, they rushed me through triage. X-rays showed my shoulder was dislocated, and I had a hairline fracture of my clavicle. The gash needed 14 stitches. They sedated me to relocate the shoulder. The pain was extraordinary, even through the drugs. While I was in the examination room, Richard Nakamura arrived. He must have broken every speed limit getting there. "Thomas, tell me everything, every detail." I did. Every word, every threat, every moment. He recorded it on his phone, taking notes. "The camera footage is in cloud storage?" "Yes. The security company's servers. Everything is saved. Don't touch that footage. Don't delete anything. We'll need law enforcement to obtain it as evidence." He squeezed my good hand. "You did everything right." A Seattle police detective arrived 2 hours later. Detective Sarah Chen, mid-40s, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Mr. Harrison, I understand you're alleging that your son-in-law assaulted you? I'm not alleging it. He did it. It's on video. I have security cameras in my home. Everything is recorded. And what led to the physical altercation? My daughter and her husband came to visit for Christmas. They brought documents giving them power of attorney over my healthcare and finances. They demanded I sell my house and move into a senior living facility. When I refused, they threatened to have me declared mentally incompetent through fraudulent medical evaluations. They admitted they'd already contacted a doctor and a real estate agent. When I told them to leave, Brett grabbed me and pushed me. I fell into the fireplace. Detective Chen wrote steadily, "Are you willing to press charges?" I looked at Richard. He nodded. "Yes, I want to press charges for assault and attempted financial exploitation." "Financial exploitation?" Richard handed her his card. "I'm Mr. Harrison's attorney. My client's daughter and son-in-law admitted on camera that they planned to fraudulently obtain medical documentation to have him declared incompetent so they could gain control of his assets. That constitutes attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. We have video and audio evidence of the threats, coercion, and the assault." Detective Chen looked at me. "Mr. Harrison, this is your daughter we're talking about. Are you certain you want to pursue this?" I closed my eyes. I saw Emily as a little girl, running along the beach, laughing. I saw her graduation, her wedding day, all the moments I'd been proud of her. Then I saw her standing in my living room, demanding I sign away my autonomy, her husband's hand on my arm before he pushed me. I'm certain they kept me overnight for observation. In the morning, my shoulder was immobilized in a sling, my pain managed with medication. A nurse brought me breakfast and the Seattle Times. I couldn't focus on any of it. Richard arrived at 9 a.m. with coffee and fresh clothes from my house. Police obtained the security footage last night. I've reviewed it. Thomas, it's damning. Every threat, every admission, the assault. Brett and Emily were arrested at their hotel at 6 this morning. My heart sank despite everything. She's my daughter. She's an adult who conspired with her husband to defraud you and who was present when he assaulted you. Those are the facts. What happens now? They're being arraigned this afternoon. Brett is being charged with second-degree assault. Emily is being charged as an accomplice for the financial exploitation attempt. I've filed for an emergency protective order. Neither of them can contact you or come within 500 feet of your property. I stared at my hands, my left arm in its sling. She must be terrified. Richard's expression softened. "Thomas, you're a good man, better than most. But good people can raise entitled children. You didn't create this situation. Emily and Brett did. You're just refusing to be their victim. The arraignment was set for that afternoon, but I didn't attend. I couldn't face it yet. Richard represented me while I recovered in the hospital. He called me that evening. Brett made bail at $75,000. Emily's was set at $50,000. Brett's parents posted it for both of them. They're out, but under the protective order. Trial is set for early March. I was released the next day. I took a taxi home. My house felt different, emptier. The bloodstain was still on my hardwood floor near the fireplace. I stared at it for a long time before calling a cleaning service. Emily tried to call 17 times from jail before she made bail. I didn't answer. Brett sent text messages that started apologetic and became increasingly angry when I didn't respond. He blamed me for ruining their lives, for being vindictive, for choosing money over family. I blocked both their numbers. The private investigator's report sat on my desk. I read it again. $340,000 in gambling debt. Brett had a problem, and instead of getting help, they decided to solve it with my money. January passed in a blur of physical therapy for my shoulder, meetings with Richard, and police interviews. The prosecutor was building a strong case. The video evidence was irrefutable. In early February, Richard called with news. Brett's attorney approached me about a plea deal. He'll plead guilty to third-degree assault in exchange for dropping the second-degree charge. 2 years, probation, anger management, restitution for your medical bills. Emily's charges would be dropped if she testifies about their planning. So, it's over? Legally, it will be. But Thomas, you need to update your estate planning. Make it ironclad, because this isn't really finished. He was right. I met with Richard and a new financial planner. We restructured everything. I created an irrevocable trust. The house would eventually go to the University of Washington's Marine Science program, something Catherine had cared deeply about. My investment portfolio would fund scholarships in her name. Emily would receive exactly what I'd already given her over the years, itemized and documented. Nothing more. It felt both petitive and necessary. Spring came to Seattle. My shoulder healed slowly. I returned to swimming, though I had to modify my stroke. I took on more consulting work. I volunteered more hours at the community college. A student there, a young man named David who was working his way through school, reminded me why I did this work. Mr. Harrison, my grandmother just died. She had dementia the last 5 years. My uncle convinced her to change her will, and she left everything to him. My mom got nothing. Is there anything she can do? I helped him navigate the legal process to contest the will. It took 6 months, but his mother eventually got her share. Thank you, David said when it was all settled. You saved my mom from losing everything. Respect your elders, David, I told him, but also teach them to protect themselves. Age doesn't mean you're helpless. It doesn't mean you have to accept abuse. In June, I received a letter, not from Emily, from Brett's mother, Margaret. 8 pages, handwritten. She explained everything I already knew from the investigator's report, but from a mother's perspective. Brett's gambling addiction, how they'd tried to get him help, how he'd refused, how Emily had been desperate to fix it, had convinced herself that borrowing from me was the only solution. Margaret didn't ask for forgiveness. She just explained. At the end, she wrote, "You were right about everything. My son needs help we cannot give him. Your daughter enabled his addiction instead of facing it. What they did to you was unforgivable. You deserved better from your family. I'm sorry you didn't get it." I filed it with the other legal documents. Acknowledgement isn't absolution, but it meant something. The plea deal was finalized in July. Brett pleaded guilty to third-degree assault. Emily's charges were dropped. Brett got 2 years probation, mandatory gambling treatment, 200 hours of community service, and had to pay $12,000 in restitution for my medical bills. My lawyer called with one more piece of news. Emily and Brett are getting divorced. She filed last week. I felt nothing. Just a hollow ache where family used to be. October came around again. Nearly a year since Emily's first text message. I was at home on a Sunday evening when my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Dad. Emily's voice, small and broken. You're violating the protective order by calling. I know. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry for everything. I closed my eyes. I know you are. Then please, can we talk? Can I come see you? I've been in therapy. I left Brett. I'm working on myself. I just want to explain. Emily, I've read the investigator's report. I know about Brett's gambling. I know about your debts. I know everything. Silence. If you had come to me honestly, I said quietly. If you had said, Dad, Brett has a problem and we need help, I would have helped you. I would have paid for rehab. I would have helped you with financial counseling. But you didn't want help. You wanted to take my autonomy, my home, my choice. You wanted me declared incompetent so you could control my assets. I know, and I hate myself for it. Dad, I was desperate, and I made terrible choices. But I'm trying to be better. Can we please try to rebuild something? Not yet, I said. Maybe someday. But that day isn't today. Today you need to focus on your own recovery, your own life. And I need to focus on mine. Will you ever forgive me? I don't know, Emily. I don't know. I hung up. I sat for a long time staring out at Puget Sound, watching the sunset paint the water gold and red. My phone buzzed. Richard checking in. You doing okay? Emily called. What did you tell her? The truth. That maybe someday we can rebuild something. But not now. That took courage. It just took clarity. 2 weeks later, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A cashier's check for $52,000 and a letter from Emily. Dad, I've been working 3 jobs to pay back what we took from you. This is everything you gave me over the years, plus calculated interest. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I almost destroyed. I understand what my choices cost both of us. I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life being sorry, and I'll spend it being better. Thank you for not letting me get away with it. Love, Emily. I sat in my study holding that check, and for the first time in 14 months, I cried. Not because everything was fixed, not because I forgave her completely, but because my daughter was taking responsibility. She was becoming accountable. I deposited the check, not because I needed the money, but because accepting it acknowledged her effort. Maybe someday we would talk. Maybe someday we would rebuild something. But that day wasn't today. Today, I went to my morning swim. I came home and worked on a financial plan for a young couple saving for their first house. I had dinner with friends from the athletic club. I lived my life on my terms. That's not revenge. That's not even justice, really. It's dignity. And at 67 years old, after everything I'd been through, that felt like enough. But 3 months later, in January, something shifted. Emily sent a text, just one line. I completed my certification as a financial counselor specializing in addiction recovery. I'm helping people like Brett now. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, I'm proud of you. 3 words. But they were true. She didn't respond immediately. When she did, hours later, it was just, thank you, Dad. That means everything. We didn't reconcile. We didn't have tearful reunions or family dinners. But we started a new kind of relationship. Careful, boundaried, honest. She sent me updates every few weeks about her work, her therapy, her life. I responded briefly but genuinely. We were building something new from the wreckage of what we'd destroyed. In March, she asked if we could meet for coffee. I said yes, but only in a public place with a time limit. We met at a cafe downtown. She looked different. Thinner, older, but also somehow more solid. I'm not going to ask you to forget what happened, she said. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. I'm just asking if we can move forward from here. With boundaries? I said. With boundaries? She agreed. I'll never ask you about your finances again. I'll never suggest where you should live or how you should manage your life. I just want to be your daughter again. If you'll let me. I thought about Catherine, what she would have wanted. She would have wanted me to be safe, yes. But she also would have wanted me to leave the door open for healing if it was real. We can try, I said. But Emily, if you ever, and I mean ever, cross those boundaries again, I won't. Dad, I promise you, I won't. We didn't hug. We didn't make grand gestures. We just had coffee and talked about safe things. Her work, my swimming, the weather. Small steps. I drove home that afternoon thinking about what I'd learned. You can love someone and still protect yourself from them. You can be a good parent and still hold your children accountable. You can forgive without forgetting. You can rebuild without going back to what was broken. At 67, I'd learned that the most important structure I'd ever built wasn't a financial portfolio or a waterfront home. It was the structure inside myself, the one that said, I matter. My choices matter. My life is mine. That foundation had held through everything. And whether Emily and I fully reconciled or not, whether we rebuilt our relationship or just maintained this careful distance, that foundation would keep holding. Because I'd built it right. With dignity, with boundaries, with self-respect. That was my legacy. Not my money, not my house. The knowledge that I'd refused to disappear just because someone else wanted me to. Lumen Vengeance. Not loud or cruel. Just clear and unshakable. And that, more than any legal victory, more than any financial security, was what made me know I'd done the right thing.